Ever wonder why it seems like your work life and your personal life are always at odds? In this episode, we are going to dig into why these two worlds often clash, and we're going to discover the underlying reasons why achieving balance seems so difficult. If you are tired of the collision course between your career and your family, this episode is for you. Do you feel that your kids are growing up so fast and you don't have time to be the parent you dreamed of being? Are you sick of the heartache you feel every time you have to leave them to go earn a living? Does debt and money stress keep you from being totally present with your family? Welcome to Daily Paid Blessings, the Parenting with a Passive Income podcast. We are Melanie and Lou Borbo, small-town parents with a now empty nest, and we realized too late how fast our kids grew up and how little time we actually had with them. On this podcast, we are going to show you how to buy back your time with passive daily pay so that you can strengthen the family foundation and help your kids and your grandkids become powerful change agents. If you are ready to ditch the 9-to-5 grind, make more memories, and parent with a purpose, grab your picnic lunch and a blanket and let's dig in. Oh, and by the way, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other parents who also want to know how to parent on purpose. Up until recently, this mom of 3, named Ashley, missed 4 out of 5 Christmases with her 5-year-old. She's been in the nursing industry, in the healthcare industry for 15 years. And, for her first 2 babies, she thought that was just the way to do it. That's all you had to go back to work after your maternity leave and you had to leave your babies in daycare. It broke her heart every single time, she said. And, but then when she had her 3rd baby, she said something just kind of snapped in her and she's like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot leave my babies in daycare. I've missed so many moments. And she said, I have to make a change. And so she was telling this story inside of our community. And I just wanted to share it with you because this is truly what so many people suffer with, right? They don't know that there's another way. They think that the only way to make money is to have a job and work, the 40 hours a week and do the things, leave your children behind and do all the things like that. And so this mom, she got online and she started thinking, what can I do? But she had tried network marketing in the past, but what she found was that, it helped her have a little bit of income, but she didn't have any more time. In fact, she was glued to her phone. And again, so now she's working trying to build a business and even more away from her kids than she was before. So she had even more mom guilt. And so she's like, that can't be the answer. There has to be another answer. And when she saw a friend posting about this community and about this program and the whole idea of attraction marketing meaning that you put the content out speaking to a certain person, a certain kind of client, and that person will see the message and go, oh my goodness, that's for me, right? I need to hear that. And so she jumped in. She has, in the last 6 months, they paid off $30,000 in debt, one of them being their Suburban, their big vehicle. They paid it all off. She said in 11 months, she's made $98,000 inside of this community. And she loves that this is something that she can do in the pockets of her days with the noise and the toys and the peanut butters on her shirt. Those are her words. And she says she loves the daily bite-sized videos that make it manageable for her to learn and then to create content. She's creating content, that her perfect customer wants to hear. She's creating that in the pickup line at her daughter's school. And so that to me is true time freedom, right? She's doing all the things. She's left healthcare. She's doing all the things with her kids. She's still got money coming in. She's still helping the family income, but she is able to be very, very present for her family. And if you want to know what she's doing and how that could possibly be the answer that you're looking for, then just head on over to dailypaidblessings.com and just put your email in. And I promise you, it's not going anywhere. We're not selling it for anything. But what you'll find there is you'll find a system, a proven system that multiple people have made hundreds of thousands of dollars with. We have well over 33 or 34,000 people in our community now. And so that's just a testament to how this program works, because you can only get inside that community if you buy the program. So watch the videos, and then you'll be on my email list, and you can hear. I can send stories out like this lady Ashley's story. You can see her video. You can hear it for yourself. I think it's a really powerful step, and there's no obligation. It doesn't matter. This is the beautiful part of this selling. If you find that it's not for you, you just unsubscribe. No big deal. You don't get a sales call. I'm not going to be following up with you. Like, none of those things. Super low risk and really, really profitable. So if you are looking for that thing that can help you work 2 hours a day so that you can be more present with your kids and just fit those 2 hours into even the pockets of your day, this may be the answer. I look forward to seeing you on the other side, my friend. God bless. Hey, friend, welcome back. We are going to dig into why our work life and our personal life tend to collide, tend to have issues with each other. And I have my husband here, Lou.
Hi there.
And we are, we're not professionals. But we do have, some years of experience. We have seen both, we blended our families many years ago, and we've watched how our work life and our personal life have collided at times. And I'm sure all of you have seen that as well. And we just want to give you, some tips and some ways that you can maybe start to look at this a little bit differently. And so we're going to dig in. The first one we're going to talk about is putting overtime above family time. What does that look like to you, honey?
Well, as being a parent, it's always important to provide for your family. Mm-hmm. And that's number one. And definitely making time for your spouse is also important for your marriage and your relationships.
Yes.
But providing for your family is definitely very important. So, unfortunately, jobs have to get completed, and there's deadlines, and that always puts pressure on families and to be healthy and to spend enough time with them.
Absolutely. And it's hard, right? Because there's reasons, which we're going to dig into here in a minute, but there's reasons why we tend to put overtime above family time is because, we, just like you mentioned, honey, we need to put food on the table. We need to provide for our families. And sometimes that desire to have more can make us work harder. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
And sometimes our families can suffer because of that, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's an easy place to go for, to think, oh, no, my kids need all this, we need all this, and so therefore I don't have time for you right now. I have to do this. And I'm sure we've both been there, haven't we?
Yep.
Because even when I was, and if you've listened to some of our other podcasts, or at least the trailer of the very beginning of this podcast, you would have heard our story. Mine was very much different than Lou's. Lou worked a lot. He missed a lot of time with his son. I, on the other hand, once I became a single mom, I wanted to stay being a stay-at-home mom, and so I sacrificed money for time. So that means I didn't have money, but I had time with my kids. I just didn't have money to do stuff with them. And I don't think either one of those is really ideal. Not in the world today that we live in where we can have options, right?
You need a healthy balance of both.
Absolutely. We need a balance. Absolutely. And when we are balanced on one area of our life, it's way easier for us to be balanced in other areas of life. So this one, putting overtime over family time, I mean, this can innocently happen, just because we think, because the bills are getting higher, the kids are getting bigger, they eat more, they need more clothes, like all of those things. And it can also be, like our commuting. Like sometimes we don't think about, okay, I work this many hours in a day. Oh, but then I have to drive for an hour to get home. Right? And then once we get home, it can be like, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted. I don't want to play with you. I don't want to talk to you. I want to just sit here and veg out, right?
Energy levels way down. And
that's right. Because we've given the best part of our day to someone else.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to something else. And we're trying to give our family the leftovers of our time and our energy. And we think that that's going to somehow make everything be better, right? But really, truly, I love what you said about balance, because when we are balanced, that means our family, we can still make a good income, we can still do all the things, but still have really good quality time with our family.
Remember why you're doing all this for.
Right. And that's going to take us into our next point, because I think this next point is kind of important, is living. The reason many times we put overtime above family time is because we're living beyond our means, right? We're trying to keep up with the Joneses.
That's right.
So now all of a sudden we think we need to have the brand new car, the fancy house, the designer clothes, and we also think that that's going to make our kids happy, right?
Yeah.
So we get caught up in this trap of I can't have less, because what are they going to think about me? What are my kids or my family or my friends? What are they going to think of me if I am not doing what they're doing?
Yeah, that's deceiving yourself into thinking that that's most important. But what I remember as a child, it was the time I spent with my parents, my family. Those were I remember the most.
Absolutely.
And value the most.
Absolutely. And you lost your dad really young, didn't you?
I did. I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, so lots of time that, his dad was probably thinking, I'll have time for my kids when I retire. I'll have time for my kids later. That didn't happen. That did not happen. And actually, I was just talking to a nurse, another lady, not the lady that I was talking about earlier, but she's a friend of ours. And we were all on a hike this past Saturday, and we were talking about travel and how, if you have the money, it's important to travel now rather than waiting for retirement. She goes, because she works in an emergency like an emergency healthcare kind of situation. And she says that so often she sees people come in that are like a week away or a couple months away from retirement, or they've only retired for a couple months and they die of a heart attack or a stroke. She said it happens all the time.
Devastating.
It is. And because people think I've got time later. When I retire, I'm going to have time. But that wasn't the case for your dad. That wasn't the case for many people.
Yeah, my mom and dad. My dad just started enjoying his retirement, and he
got sick.
He got sick.
Yep. So this is what the reason we're so passionate about doing this podcast and the work that we're doing is because we want you to enjoy your family now and your family to get you now, because that's the most important time. And so when we think about living beyond our means, that simply means like we buy things on credit without having the money, thinking that we're going to have the money later. But then what happens is we have to sacrifice so much time to now get that debt paid off that we do miss much time with our families.
Yes.
And, I want to be clear. We're not saying that we shouldn't have nice things. We're not saying that at all. There's nothing wrong with having nice things. There's nothing wrong with, traveling and doing all the fun things. It's just make sure that your family still has higher priority than
Put them
stuff.
in the right order.
That's right. Put it in the right order. If you can have all the nice things and do all the nice things and still spend time with your family, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because now you're putting your family in a higher place, and the stuff that comes with having money, or even not, if you're buying it on credit, I guess you don't have the money, but that comes at a lesser, what's the word? Like a lesser place in your value system. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It can be a real juggling act if you don't prioritize things in your life and put importance on the right things.
Absolutely. And that's a really good segue into our third point. And this is just from our experience. I mean, you may have a different opinion about this, but what we've learned and what we've seen in our life is that when we have the love of money, now it's not the love of money that's evil. You've heard this, right? It's not money that is evil. It's the love of money that causes us to get into trouble. That's where the problem starts.
Better, yes.
So when we love and idolize money and power and fame and all of those things, it puts our priorities all kind of get turned upside down all of a sudden, right?
Yes, that's true.
Because when we're only focused on how much money I have or how much status I have, or how much fame I have.
How big my bank account is.
Yeah, how big my bank account is. When we focus on that stuff completely, then, you know, we will do whatever it takes to get it. And that's where the problem comes, is because that's where we then put too much emphasis on overtime instead of family time, too much, you know, like, I don't know how many times in my life I've heard, and I won't get into it, but in my first marriage, I heard it all the time. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. So there was no time for me, or the kids at that point. It was just, I've got to work. I've got to make money. Right. And, you know, it's a sad place to be, because we always sacrifice something, but it's like, what is the most important thing for you to sacrifice? And I'm assuming because you're on this podcast, I don't imagine you'd be on a podcast talking about parenting and family and stuff if you didn't care about your family. So, I would really suggest that you take a look at your priorities and just see, are they upside down? What's coming first? You know, I went to and I talk about this lady all the time because she did have a really big impact on my life. She's a business coach, except she talked so much about family, like everything was about family. And she always said that the best way to set up your priorities, is to have God first, obviously, if you're a believer. But even if you aren't, he's a pretty good place to put top priority. But she said, God first, then her husband, then her kids, and then her business. And she said, when she kept that in mind, that was the priority, things went that way. She said her life went so much easier and things worked together so much better. And, so quickly before we go, how can we, now we know we have to make money. There's no question about that. We have to make money. We can't live on this earth without money. So what do we do then? How can we have more time with our family and more money? Or how can we make the time with our family be a higher quality time? What do you think, honey?
Well, it's, gosh, that's a good question.
Well, I mean, so when we start putting our family first, when our family comes before the stuff, because we need to have money to pay bills, but it's all the other stuff that we think we want and that our kids need. Do you really think that kids need to have the best cell phone, the best video games, the fanciest car? I mean, I get it. That's a tough temptation, because the world is pulling so hard saying we have to give this stuff to our kids because we're not good parents if we don't. But is that really true?
Is that a need or is it a want?
Absolutely. Is that a need or a want? And again, I'm not saying you can't have that stuff and you can't give your kids that stuff, but just like Lou said, when we were kids, what we remembered was the time. Like, I can tell you Christmases that we spent with my aunts and uncles, and where my cousin and I would sleep under the kitchen table because the house was right full of people. Every bed was filled, floors were filled, and my cousin and I chose to sleep under the kitchen table. It was fun, right? We got to make a tent, all of these things. But that is something that I will probably never forget. Now, you tell me, even now, I look at some of the gifts that I got. I don't know. I don't remember the gifts that I got, except for the ones that I know my mom really had to struggle to get. There's some that I remember, but it's mostly time. And that's something that from the time my kids weren't very old, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to buy them Christmas presents anymore, because it just seemed like I remember the one Christmas, it was like, well, that's all I got. You know, how many times have we seen that? And I know that same Christmas, my sister saw it with her kids. Everybody was freaking out, opening gifts and screaming and yelling, and like, so after that, I'm like, no, I'm done with that nonsense. That is not going to work. And I don't know that was, at the time, I'm sure my kids didn't think that was a great idea, but my trade-off was, we're going to go on a trip instead.
Yes.
Each year, we're going to go on a trip. Instead of buying presents, we're going to go do something fun. We're going to go on a trip. And my kids to this day, they're all young adults. They're all in their 20s. They will sit for an hour or 2 hours reminiscing about those trips, won't they?
I remember hearing about it.
Yep, absolutely. Because Lou came in after, these kids were gone from home already, but they will sit and they'll talk and talk and talk and talk about these memories. And that's, I guess, the point that I want to make is that it's about memories, right? So if we have the money to make the memories without just all the stuff, to me, it's a much bigger payoff. It's a
bigger value.
It's a bigger value, a higher reward than just the thing, right?
Yeah.
However, I'm going to leave this with you is that just as I mentioned a little bit ago, beginning of the podcast, about this lady named Ashley, she found a way to have both time with her kids and have the money to pay off the debt and do the things, right? And so there absolutely is. And if you want to know how that could work for you, like I mentioned earlier, just head on over to dailypaidblessings.com, put your email in, you'll watch a couple videos, you'll see how this program works to help you work 2 hours, master a 2 hour workday, still make really good money, and have the time to do the things that you want to do.
It's an amazing system that they've developed.
Absolutely. It's just like nothing I've ever seen before.
They got everything figured out for you.
Yep, absolutely. And anyway, you heard my little spiel on this lady earlier in the podcast, and so I'll leave you with that. But two things: look at your priorities. What are the things that you need in your life, and what are the things that you want? And what do you want your life and your family to remember? What do you want them to remember? Do you want, when you die, do you want them to say, yeah, my mom worked or my dad worked all the time, I never saw them? Or do you want them to say, you know what, my mom and dad took me places, they maybe didn't buy me everything, but they took me places, they gave me adventures. They
made a point of making us a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that the legacy that you want to leave? So I guess I can leave that with you, but in the meantime, have a fantastic day. God bless, and we will talk to you next week. Have you been blessed by this episode? Has it touched you or inspired you or taught you something? If so, would you take 30 seconds, and write a written review? Not only does it warm our heart to hear from you, but it also lets us know that we're giving you what you need. And it also helps other people find the podcast that may need this kind of information as well. And remember, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Take care, my friend, and God bless.